My, oh my, how his star has fallen. Tom King, once the big guy on Batman that could write any miniseries of DC Comics that would end up in the top 5 selling comic books in the entire industry, is not that guy anymore. And he hasn't been for about 3 or 4 years now. If he writes a Batman miniseries, yes, it still sells. And I imagine his upcoming Wonder Woman series is certainly going to sell a lot more than it did under the previous writers. Clunrad, Michael Conrad, and Becky Cloonan, I would say they're worse than Colin Kelly and Jackson Lanzik. That's how poorly I think of Clunrad. And their Wonder Woman run was absolutely atrocious. They brought in a lot of other really bad writers like Stephanie Williams, Yervita Ayala's. They end up doing a big event that no one read. Now they're looking to juice up Wonder Woman just a little bit. So they're bringing in the big guns, a guy that could sell a comic book on his name alone 5 years ago, but certainly not today, Tom King. There will be increases, but if you're a Wonder Woman fan, this is probably the worst case scenario. I would probably rather read Becky Cloonan, Michael Conrad, Milk God stories than whatever it is that Tom King has in store for Diana Prince, Wonder Woman, the female part of DC Comics Trinity and one of the most important comic book characters in history. It doesn't matter that she's important. It doesn't matter that she's a part of the Trinity. If Tom King's writing her, he's going to do some things to her. Tom King is making the rounds right now, doing interviews, trying to pump up interest in the upcoming Wonder Woman, which I believe is launching in November. This is all from an interview on thepopverse.com, and I'm just going to point out to you that this thing is absolutely destined to be dookie. First up, he says, in looking at Diana, I think one of the problems is sometimes she's put up on too much of a pedestal and treated as perfect. And a perfect person is hard to relate to. None of us are perfect, and it's hard to have empathy for someone like that. I came up under Chris Claremont's X-Men, where every character had a cool flaw. And I will fully admit, the heroes in the DC Comics universe, especially the really big ones, are certainly a different breed of hero than you get over at Marvel Comics, where every character was kind of a little bit more grounded in reality with their personal flaws. And a lot of the heroes at the DC Comics universe are much more godlike and much more close to perfection than they are with their Marvel Comics brethren. Wonder Woman is certainly an example of this alongside Superman. And you can see why people would treat a character like Wonder Woman as damn near perfect. She's a female character. She's very powerful. She's basically a god among men, and she's trying to help everyone out. And she doesn't really have that big flaw like a Batman character, where he's so obsessed with this moment in his life that happened, 30 or 40 years ago with the death of his parents that he can't get over it. He's replaying this moment of his life over and over again, and he's obsessed with justice, and maybe he's a little bit too married to the cause. But we all know what Tom King meant when he said this character is just a little bit too perfect. That means character deconstruction is on the menu. We're going to see 7th rate Alan Moore come out in Tom King once again. And Tom King character deconstruction never goes well. With Batman, what's one of the first things he does with Bruce Wayne? Oh, now he's attempted suicide right after his parents' death. With Alfred, just sitting in viewing distance and knows this happens, never tries to intervene on the young man because, even Batman, despite all his flaws, is just a little too perfect for Tom King, and we got to deconstruct the character. And basically, Batman is an enormous loser that couldn't win a fight if he wanted to, and Catwoman basically has to do the fighting for him. You get over to Strange Adventures. Adam Strange, a pulpy hero from back in the day that went off to other worlds to fight aliens and all that stuff. Nah. He was a war criminal that sold his daughter off to make a deal because Adam Strange, he was too perfect, and I couldn't relate to him. Also, during the same story, Mr. Terrific, very strong black male character. We don't get a whole lot of those in DC Comics or Marvel Comics. Not enough, at least. Yeah, when his wife and unborn child died, he was pretty relieved. He didn't feel like he had what it took to be a dad. He wasn't ready for that responsibility. Because Mr. Terrific also was a little bit too perfect. We had to make him more relatable. What else did Tom King do to make a character more relatable? Oh, with the Human Target, he made Guy Gardner, because he was too perfect, right? Just the embodiment of perfection. A stalker, that was really cool. He also made Martian Manhunter have a really weird kink. His wife and daughter died in fire, so when he's having sex, he wants to be burned, because apparently Martian Manhunter needed to be a sexual deviant to make him more relatable. In Batman Catwoman, what did he do with that one? Oh, because Catwoman was really the star of the book. It should have been Catwoman and a little bit of Batman. Selena Kyle absolutely hates her daughter and is a terrible mother. It was potentially likely sleeping with Joker behind Bruce Wayne's back, because all these characters, they just need to be relatable. Everybody's too perfect for Tom King. The interview continues. She is someone who's so for peace, but finds herself a warrior. She's constantly failing. Every time she punches someone, she failed at her job. I think that gives her some gravity and something that makes her humanity, that she does not want to be a superhero. She wants us to live in peace and love, but here she is as a warrior, as a fighter. So her own success is her failure. I think that's fascinating as a character. Wonder Woman was raised on Themyscira as a warrior. She literally trained every single day of her life for thousands upon thousands of years before she left the island to be a warrior. She wasn't like the UN or something where she's going in there and trying to like broker peace or something like that. Sure, Wonder Woman, like everyone else, would prefer peace and for everyone to get along and be nice to each other. But she also realizes, being trained on Themyscira and knowing that there's some big battles to be fought in her future, that as a warrior, it's her responsibility to go out there and protect people. And this is something that Tom King actually know about. He was in the CIA. He did go to Iraq or whatever. I went to Afghanistan. I wasn't going there to go and pick fights and beat people up. I was actually going there, to assist the troops that I was supporting and to protect them. And sometimes protecting people means you have to hit somebody, means you have to do some violence, means you have to do some things that you would prefer not to do. And this is a concept of all the concepts that you would think that Tom King would be able to understand. As a warrior, you would like to protect the peace, but in order to do so, sometimes you have to hit people. That doesn't mean you failed at anything. I don't get that with the character at all. You don't ever see moments where she's all sitting there contemplating with her hand on her head. And it's like, oh my goodness, I had to slap a bitch today. What was I thinking? I have failed my life. That isn't Wonder Woman. This is my favorite part of the interview right here. Most characters, you can take them back to their origin story. You can take Batman back to the first issue of Batman. You can take Superman back to that first issue of Superman. Wonder Woman, it's harder to do that. She was created in a different time and place by a man who had a very specific agenda. Some of that agenda was absolutely wonderful, but some was a little dated by this point. So you can't just take her back to her origins, which involve a particular man's kinks. All of that combined make her difficult to write, which is why I wanted to do it. Who wants to do anything easy? Great, now Tom King is mansplaining about William Moulton Marston and what his kinks were when he was a younger man. And when you read interviews from William Moulton Marston, his intent with Wonder Woman was that he was a feminist. He was a card-carrying feminist, and he wanted a strong female character that girls could relate to. I imagine that's what he means about the wonderful parts of Wonder Woman, and I don't think that's what he's talking about by being dated. Strong female woman being written by a card-carrying feminist. Does this ring a bell to you guys? It kind of sounds like Wonder Woman from Tom King. I imagine when he's talking about William Moulton Marston's kinks, he's saying because he had a wife, but he also had a mistress and they all lived together. Maybe that's what he's talking about. Or perhaps because just the look of Wonder Woman itself is inspired by some centerfolds in bondage magazines. He was into bondage. He liked to be dominated or whatever. But you never really saw that from Wonder Woman as a character from that particular writer. You did see it from Wonder Woman, but that was Grant Morrison. I wonder if Tom King is going to mansplain to Grant Morrison that his kinks are bad and that his point of view is a little bit outdated. Do you think Tom King has the balls for it? We all know King ain't going to do a goddamn thing because Grant Morrison is non-binary now, and he just don't got the tea for it. You know what I'm saying? When speaking about the character of Wonder Woman, this is what the creator of the character had to say. Look, if you had a female superhero, her powers could all be about love and truth and beauty, and you could also sell your comic books better to girls. And that would be really important and great because she could show girls that they could do anything. That is from the mouth of the actual creator of Wonder Woman, one of the greatest superheroes in the history of American superhero comic books. What's the greatest thing King ever created in his life at DC Comics? Gotham Girl. Yet you're going to tell me and you're going to tell the world that William Moulton Marston didn't know what he was doing when he created Wonder Woman, that he wanted a strong female character because he was a card-carrying feminist that other girls could look up to and understand that they could do anything if they put their mind to it. It just so happens he liked bondage and he gave her a bit of a skimpy outfit. The outfit has changed many, many times over the years, but I would say over the years, the character has remained true to what the intent of the creator was in the first place. And I think that's important to comic books. But now we're going to see the really flawed version of Wonder Woman because she's just not relatable to Tom King. And don't forget, this comic book isn't about Wonder Woman. It's not about Wonder Woman fans. It's not about DC Comics fans. This comic book is about Tom King. We're his therapist because he's a shitty writer and he's got a lot of emotional problems, which I guess we all have, but he's expressing them in his own unique way by destroying other people's stuff. This is the final part of the interview I'll cover. What I found in going in and reading stuff and getting a lot from Gail Simone's run and Greg Rucka's run is she's rebellious in a way that Superman and Batman aren't. Batman enforces the status quo. He fights crime. Superman, he's a guy from Kansas who believes in the American way in subsets. He's just like, I just want things to be the way they are. And Wonder Woman's not that. She's a rebel against the system. She's the one who says, this is not working. No, thank you. I'm not going to do that anymore. She should never be doing what everyone else is telling her to do. She's trying to create a better world. First off, I do want to say his characterization of Batman and Superman is so off. I find it really irksome. Let's use the word irksome here. Batman is just defending the status quo. He's never fought against the politics of Gotham. He's never fought against the police of Gotham. He's never fought for reform and change in Gotham in his life. He's never put his money where his mouth is because Batman is an enforcer of the status quo, according to Tom King. I wonder why his Batman series was so bad. Because Superman's never fought for change. He's never wanted to help people. He's never fought for the little guy. Superman himself is the embodiment of Big Brother, according to Tom King. While Wonder Woman's the big rebel, even though she's been a part of the Justice League since like 1960. I think that's the first appearance of Wonder Woman in the Justice League. And she's basically been led by Batman and Superman the entire time. Certainly, they've had disagreements. Well, do you ever remember when Wonder Woman was like, you guys are so wrong. You are so much the system that I'm walking away from the team forever. And I hate everything that you stand for. She's never done that. She's not really a rebel. She is a warrior. She has a point of view, which makes the character very interesting because Superman has a point of view from middle America, small town, rural America. Batman has a point of view, vigilante in an enormous urban area from America. Green Lantern has a point of view. Flash has a point of view. And Wonder Woman obviously has a point of view growing up as a warrior on Themyscira, coming to man's world. And I don't believe when they say man's world, they're talking about men. I think it's human's world because she's not really human. She's actually a god and has been raised among gods. And when she comes to the human world, everything looks different. Everything is run different and everyone's values are different. When does Wonder Woman try to change the world? When does she say, listen, America, you all are fucked up. You're way too into money. You don't look out for each other. It's time for you all to change. And if you don't fucking change right here, right now, I'm going to take over this godforsaken country and I'm going to show you how to live because I'm going to take charge of everything because I'm making a better world. Like, I don't think of Wonder Woman and Superman, two very powerful characters who could do this if they wanted to, of actively trying to change the world using their power. Because if they did, they could take over the world, they could take over a country, and they could force people to live the way that they wanted to. But if they did that, they would become fascist dictators, like, I don't know, a Genghis Khan, a Hitler, a Napoleon, things of that nature. That's not who those characters are. So they do try to change the world by setting a good example, by being good role models, by doing the right thing, even when it doesn't feel like the right thing to do. And that's how they're trying to make a better world. But this guy, he just doesn't get the character. That's the point. He doesn't get any of these fucking characters because none of these comic books are ever about the hero in question. He's just using them as an allegory so he can talk about his issues with his wife, his issues with his mommy, his issues with his daddy being gone, or his issues with his kid or whatever. And it gets tiresome. And that's why Tom King's star has dropped so much over the years. But if you are a Wonder Woman fan and you're excited about Tom King because he's the big name that James Gunn can't stop talking about and he's in the DCU writers room and this guy's the future, we've already seen what the future is. The future is the deconstruction of Wonder Woman as a character and 8 issues in, you wishing that you never signed on because this is a match made in hell. At this point, Tom King can't change who he is. a talented writer who probably had a future when he wasn't trying to be Alan Moore Jr. and basically destroying his entire reputation. I honestly hope everything works out for him in the DCU with James Gunn, and he finally moves on from comic books and does something he really wants to do, and then he can depress everybody in the world and leave us goddamn comic book fans alone. If you need a further example of this, I got one of his character deconstructions right here, one of the worst things Tom King ever did to a character. You have to see it to believe it. If you haven't seen it, be warned. This is awful. There's also a link in the video description.